Hi, everyone. I'm Carl Bierock. Welcome back to the Jaguar Football Podcast. With us today is the head coach of Seckman Football, Dr. Nicholas Bear. Coach Bear, so good to see you.
Hey, Carl, happy to be here, man.
All right. So we have a very aggressive rundown today and thought we would talk about number one, the debut of our brand new uniform. So I can't wait for you to walk us through that. Also, the Senior BBQ, big event, a big milestone that we know football is just around the corner when the senior boys come over to your house for some barbecue. And of course, we'll dig into some off-season updates. Sound good, Coach?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. So, the debut of the brand new varsity uniforms. There you go. I was wondering if you could tell us about them.
Yeah, one of the responsibilities as a head coach, every 3 to 4 years, we're due for new uniforms, and this was the season, this was the opportunity. So I've designed a set of uniforms before, but that was basically in my second or third year. I did first time doing anything. You never really know what you're doing. So I was happy with our last uniforms, but these uniforms really speak to me, I guess, and they're definitely more my style. If you're a big fan of the Oregon Ducks and the flash and the stripes and the this all over the jersey, you, you may not like these. But if you're like me and you're a little bit more about the traditional, keeping things nice, clean, and clean looking, think more like Alabama Crimson Tide, then you're going to love these jerseys. As you look at these now, that guy doesn't play on our football team, but he looks good in that jersey. When you see our new blue jerseys, you're going to see, there isn't a lot of flash. Okay. It's blue and gold. Those are our school colors. And I really wanted those to kind of show out and shine in these jerseys, and kind of a new thing that we've added this year that I haven't had on a jersey before are the numbers on the shoulder pad. So, like I said, this is very much a more clean and classic kind of college football look. When you look at a few storied programs that we're really going for. Um, so yeah, and we'll probably end up pairing them with the blue pants as well, the blue pants and also the gold pants. The gold pants I'm really partial to. So really like this look, and I think the boys are gonna like it as well.
Yeah, super clean. We're not the Oregon Ducks by any stretch with
Hmm.
the out there uniforms, but it seems like a lot of programs in college and even NFL. You think about some of like the alternative jerseys that NFL
Right.
teams are wearing. It's that simple design, and that less
Hmm.
is more. And so, yeah, very cool to see those at the Valley on a Friday night. And then when we take the road, we have some new road uniforms as well.
Yeah, these are our whites. The whites get a lot more wear and tear than the blues, simply because every time we go on the road, we got to wear white, right? Whereas when we're at home, hey, 1 week we'll wear the blue jerseys, 1 week we got the gold jerseys, 1 week we'll go with the black jerseys, things like that. So the whites get a little bit more wear, but it's that same look. If you're looking at the uniform and your initial thought is, well, it looks kind of boring. That was the intention, right? Like I said, clean, sharp was what we're going for. Name on the front, numbers on the side, and you can see with this outline, if we didn't add the gold outline, on the number, now you're looking like Northwest, right? Just blue and white. Well, we didn't want that. So went with the gold outline on the numbers, and these are ones once again that I look really good, or that I really like. When you look at these, quite honestly, I think my favorite combination will be that white jersey and gold pants. That's always been one that's really popped out to me, and we'll wear the blue pants with them as well. And then the boys' favorite is clearly when we go white out, when we go white jersey, white pants. Then these are gonna look very sharp when we do that. So
Yeah,
if you're looking at the jersey, you'll notice that little UA symbol, the Under Armour symbol. This is the first time we're actually wearing Under Armour for our jerseys. Previously, we've had Adidas. The last ones we had were Rawlings. These are going to be Under Armour, and I really feel like these are a great. I don't know sure how many times you've gotten up and felt the jersey and felt how much they breathe and how much they expand. I feel like this is a great combination of the two jerseys we've already had. The Adidas could be said, oh, it was a little tight, but the Rawlings, some of those guys, especially the guys wearing the 2 and 3Xs, they were a little loose. These kind of have the perfect combination. When all these different salesmen are coming through, and I'm feeling the jerseys and I'm stretching them out and we're working them. Like, this was the best feeling one. So I was really happy when it came into our price point, and we were able to kind of really make it work. And you know, can't wait to get them out there on a Friday night.
Yeah, no doubt about that. These uniforms look very, very sharp, and because varsity is getting new uniforms, some of the lower levels benefit from this as well.
Yeah, everybody gets an upgrade. JV, they're going to be wearing, our gold jerseys at home, along with the white Rawlings jerseys that we have been wearing on the road the past 3 seasons on the varsity level. So those guys are getting varsity level uniforms at the JV. And then, probably the happiest group, and they don't even know it yet because they haven't been up here yet, are the freshmen. Now they're going to get our varsity blues. I mean, we've been wearing those varsity blues for about 8 or 9 years to this point. Those things have lasted, and they're going to get them now, and they're still in great condition. Along with previously what were our JV whites, and those whites had actually served as varsity white jerseys for a long time. So they're getting an upgrade, and freshman football around here, they basically have had to play games in what they practiced in. Not because we couldn't afford to, but in my mind, it was a little bit of a rite of passage, a little bit of a reminder of, hey, this is what you're working towards. But I hear the people out there, and I definitely think it's time to, give them a little upgrade, a little bit better, than when I was a freshman. My freshman jersey, it was bright yellow, and it didn't even reach my belly button. So these kids are going to be looking pretty sharp out there on a Monday night at 4 p.m.
I can't wait. Can't wait. Looking forward to it. These uniforms look great. And over the weekend, Coach, it is one of the milestones that we're getting closer to the beginning of the season. You hosted a little get together at your house with the group of seniors. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that event and what it means not only for you as the coach, but also for the players.
Yeah, every year, we take time to kind of get outside of school and away from the game of football, to talk the game of football at my house, and we have the senior barbecue, and for me, it's always really a great time to reflect on where this group started, and where they are now. You've shown the picture up there. We had 23 seniors at my house, on Sunday, and we had 3 guys on vacation. So we have 26 seniors, that we've got it down to at this point. And, you know, really, I think about where it started. When these guys were freshmen, I think we had I think it was a 52 freshmen, 53 freshmen on the team. And these 26 guys have kind of got it whittled down and committed, the last 3.5 years to gear up for their senior year. And, it's one of those things, you look around and this is the football team. I guarantee you, if we go back to their freshman year or maybe even to their 7th or 8th grade year, and I tell them, hey, by the time you're a senior, that guy that's a two-way starter on your 7th and 8th grade team or was this and that on your freshman team isn't going to be on the football team anymore, they'd have all lost their minds. But that's really, we'd love to have them all on the team, but people make their own decisions. And that's really what we're all about. And that's why we're all about developing every player, because I know by the time we get to senior year, so and so is going to, have a girlfriend and not want to play anymore. So and so is going to want to get a job. So and so is going to think they got to focus on another sport. So and so just falls out of love with the game. So and so does drugs. They don't play football anymore. Um, so, it's always important for us to develop every player. So that's why, the playing time piece at the freshman level is so important. The playing time piece at the JV. And what I'm trying to get our young coaches, our coaches on the junior Jaguars understand the playing time in 4th and 5th grade, in 6th grade, in 7th and 8th grade. I tell them all the time, pick your 11 best guys on your team right now who you think your studs are. Half of them, not by anybody's choice or for anything wrong, aren't going to end up playing as seniors. And, we're going to try our damnedest to get as many out as we can. But in reality, that's just how it goes sometimes. So that's why it's so important to make sure the 15th and 16th and 21st and 22nd and 28th guy, and for us on our freshman team, the 44th guy, is getting the playing time and getting development, and getting the coaching. Because, when it comes to senior year, that's going to be a guy we're depending on. So, you know, looking at those guys, sitting in the basement, these are the 26 guys that are going to be getting it done for us as a senior group. We had a lot of positive conversations. Everybody always wants to talk about the offense or the defense or how we're doing this tackle station or the, you know, those things matter, but they mean nothing without senior leadership. It means absolutely nothing. All good football teams have senior leadership, and those are the details. Especially when the margins get tighter, and we've talked about it with our new schedule. The margins getting tighter, right? The 50 bombs wins, might be a little few and far in between, but the 1 and 2 and 3 score games, those are going to be a lot more relevant. Okay, the senior leadership, those tight margins, that's when it really matters.
Yeah, Coach, doing this podcast with you the last few years, it seems like each senior group has their own identity. And you talked about, before we started recording this one today, that this is a very tight knit group. And, just wondering if you could tell us a little quick brief about, how do you think their identity is shaping up for this coming season?
Yeah, I tell them all the time, this is your team. I mean, you guys really get to decide, what do you want other teams to say about us? When we step off the field with 6 new opponents this year. So when we step off the field with North Point and Lindbergh and Rittner and Parkway North and Hayeswood East and Hayeswood Central, they've never played segment football before. Or it's been a long time since they have. What are they going to be saying about us? What are they going to say about our attitude, our effort, the love we have for our teammates? That's under your control, and it's important for them to take ownership. This is their senior year. You get one. I've got 15 more, right? I'll figure it out with another group. These guys got one opportunity to get it right and to take the ownership. So we talked a lot about taking the ownership and what do you want to be known for? As a team, and how are we going to hold each other to that standard? We talked a lot about adversity because football is about how you handle adversity. Weak-minded people cannot handle adversity. You have to be strong-minded. So we talked a lot about having strength in adversity because in a football game, you're going to have adversity, whether it's, a fumble, giving up a touchdown, missing a tackle, missing assignment, an interception, going 3 and out, how are you going to handle yourself when these things happen in a game? So we put ourselves in those situations and talked about how we want to do that and how we're going to hold each other accountable to do that. You're going to face adversity in the way of being down at halftime. When I walk into the locker room at halftime and we're down a score or two, what's it going to be? What am I going to walk into? I've seen it to where I've walked into some glazed over eyes. I've walked into some star players hiding in lockers. When that happens, I'm oh crap, we're screwed. you know, Coaches, we gotta get them going here. I've walked into other locker rooms where I've got senior guys walking around, pumping everybody up, talking to them about what we need to do, getting them locked back in. Obviously, I prefer the second. It's all about okay, hey, we're down 2 scores. All right, we have to kick the ball back off to them. Well, guess what? We're not gonna be able to score 14 points on the first play. We got to kick off to them first. So let's go out there and make the first tackle. Right? Start from there. Just build momentum, being ready to get ready for that next play. And then we broke down and I know it's like a curse word. Nobody ever really wants to say the word, but the ultimate form of adversity in the game of football, Carl, it's a 4-letter word.
Yeah, I loss.
Starts with L.
Yeah.
A loss, right? No one wants to talk about losing. But guess what? It happens. You're going to lose a football game in the course of a season. There's only 6 teams that don't lose their last game, and they're the state champions. All right, so chances are we're going to lose a football game throughout the season. How are we going to handle that? What's the next week of practice going to look like? When you go back to a couple of our losses last year, we lost week 1 against Parkway West. Well, it was pretty easy to get them all backed up and focused for that Fox game, right? I mean, if you can't get up for Fox, I mean, get the hell out. It's pretty easy to get them going for that. But what if we talked about the margin in that Fox game? What if we lose the Fox there and we're devastated? We're down. Now we're 0-2 going into week 3. What's that next week of practice look like? So we talked a lot about those details, about what it would look like. that week, and how we're going to hold each other accountable, both as coaches and as teammates. And we use that word accountability because ultimately, and we know that part of our standard is having love for your teammates. You're not in love with them, but you certainly have love for them. I mean, we're all working towards a common goal. And one of the way you show love for another person is holding them accountable, right? If we have a guy not reaching the standard, not handling adversity the way we need to be handling them, we need to have these conversations with them. We need to build them up. It's not yelling at them. All right. It's talking to them, showing love for them, holding them accountable. Know that you're holding them accountable because you care about them, and it's important for me. And we talked about it too. Like when we walk off the field with Rittner, you know, how do you, how do you, show that? How do you show the love? Basically we have to care more about each other than Rittner cares about each other, and that's got to be visible, you know, man, those guys, they really cared about each other. They communicated to each other. They talked to each other. They were picking each other up the whole game. They never stopped, right? That's all part of that piece. We have to care about each other more than Parkway North cares about each other. That we talked for about an hour and a half. I know we don't have that much time here.
This is really good stuff, Coach, because I think I see that in my professional life too. It's like how you carry yourself and your, I don't want to call it attitude, but just you have your appreciation for your colleagues, your coworkers,
right?
Everybody, and that is infectious, and it spreads. In this case,
Yes.
with the football team, like having each other's back and being supportive, and the other team, you're right. I guarantee they're picking up on that cue.
Yeah, and it goes back to we could even go back to the last time we put helmets on. For whatever reason, I could tell, well, by the time we got to week 11 last year, the Northwest Lions, those guys cared about each other. I'm not saying we didn't.
Right.
I'm not saying we didn't. I'm not. But just being on the sideline, I could tell that those guys cared about each other, and it was just a little bit more than we did, and that was the margin. Okay, when you care about somebody, when you care about a team a little bit more, you're going to take a step harder on that block, right? You're going to go just a little bit harder for the guy next to you on that play, and ultimately, that Friday night, the Northwest Lions cared more about each other than the Seckman Jaguars cared about each other. So we'll see, how we hold each other accountable to that. That'll be what all the fun's about. But these are the things that are important, and these are the conversations that we're having surrounding the game of football.
Yeah, that's great, and it's good to have those well before the season as opposed to in the middle of prepping for that particular game week. And
Yeah,
so a lot going on around here. In the off season, of course, we have our football camp, Coach, coming up, and also the Junior Jaguar registrations open. Just
yeah, a lot about
the Jag camp, right?
Yeah, we got all our youngsters. They're on summer break. I know they hope they're staying busy. Hopefully they're in summer school. The Bear boys have to go to summer school all the way up until 8th grade. I think it's good to just stay busy at least a couple days a week. But if you're getting kind of sick and tired of them, you need to get them out of the house. Football camp's next week, next Tuesday, Wednesday night, about an hour 15, hour 30 of football instruction with myself, my high school coaches, and my high school players for $30, and you get a T-shirt out of the deal. So it's always a fun night. I always enjoy it. Great opportunity, if your child's thinking about playing the game, joining our fall contact teams. It's a great way to kind of get introduced to it, meet some of the players on the team. We'll have a couple of coaches walking around too, connecting and things like that. So, make sure, come on out. We'll take walk-ups. I think right now we're at 155 signed up through our website. Last year we ended up with 147, so we're already above that. And I always anticipate a few people walking up that night. So, going to really dive into and dig into the details tomorrow on the camp and how we're running it and things like that. So expect an email from me tomorrow regarding our youth camp for sure if you've already signed up.
Perfect.
And then, running along with that, we got our Junior Jaguar signups, for our Fall Contact League. Registrations are up from where we were last year. We've already got 30 more people signed up. Okay. So, make sure if you're holding out, you played last year, you want to sign up, you're holding out, hey, let's get signed up. Let's get ready to go. Registration is $255. We're doing a lot of, last year was more than that. We're doing a lot of things to shave the price off of playing football for us. Just in the last 2 years, we've made it $200 cheaper.
Good.
So, um, go ahead, get your players signed up, and it's a great opportunity to come out and learn the game of football.
Yeah, great. And we will have the links for the registration in the description of this podcast. And of course, you can catch us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And Coach, we have about 30 seconds. Give you the floor here and take us out as we get closer and closer to, getting on the pads.
Yeah, every time we get on one of these, we're a couple days, a couple weeks closer, to really being in it with the season. This morning I'm up at 4:30, excuse me, and we had the team out on the field at 6, and then balls are flying around, guys are preparing, and it's one of those things where I got to tell you, if I don't remind them, sometimes they forget. It's important to show up. It's important to be here. Everybody that's on this team has a role. I tell them, I said, look around at your position. Look around. There ain't nobody coming to save us. You guys are the ones that we are counting on to get it done. And sometimes juniors don't realize that. Or sometimes players, I've always been, we're counting on you. We're counting on you to be here. We're counting on you to be focused on your position, your responsibilities. Because you have a major role to play on this team, and every player does. And I really re-emphasize that today with not only the varsity but the JV. Those guys are working really well. Well, guess what? The JVs lost some numbers from their freshman year too. There were guys last year, maybe they didn't think they were very good and they were third string. Well, guess what? There's a chance that second string guy ain't on the team anymore. So guess who's second string? You have a role, right? There was a guys that they were second string last year. Hey, a couple first string guys aren't out here anymore. Some of them moved on. Guess who we need? It's you. You're up. Like, we're counting on you to be here. So, the coaches are going to be pouring into you, and we're trying to build confidence in you to go out and get it done. And I'm proud of the steps the JV group has taken to mature, and then all the way down to the freshman group. These guys are working hard. They're listening. They're coachable. And that makes my life enjoyable. We're right about 45 freshmen or so. Probably end up adding a couple more, but I told them that, they don't think about these things like Coach Bear does, right? They're just so in their little world. How many guys you have on each side of the ball? Well, there's 11 guys on offense. Okay, so if I have 11 guys that are first string and 11 guys that are second team, that's 22 people. Okay, then I go to the defensive side of the ball. I need 11 people, all right, to start. And then I need 11 people to back them up. That's 22. Well, Carl, 22 and 22 makes 44. So I said, look around. I need each and every one of you guys that are here. I don't care how good you think you are, how small of a role that you think you are needed on this football team. Sometimes when it's early in the morning and you hear that alarm clock goes off, it's, sometimes you put that head back down. Oh, hell no. Coach Barrett needs me here. The football team needs me here. My teammates that I have love for need me at football. And my role is important. So, that's where we're at this time of year.
I love it. Love it, Coach.
Because if I don't tell them, sometimes they just forget, Carl. They're dumb. I mean, I say that out of love, Carl. I'm raising one that's 16 right now. I say it out of love, but they're teenagers and they're dumb. They just don't see the big picture all the time. So if you don't remind them, they forget easily.
As a father,
like I said, I say that out of love.
Yeah, I concur.
Right.
Well said, Coach. I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts on this. That's one of the themes that you even talk about, like at the end of the year, everyone plays a role, and it's important to be there early in the off season and putting in the work to have all that success later on this fall. And seems like the older players, in the program understand it, and then you're instilling those values into the younger group.
Sometimes, Carl, just when I think they do understand it, they don't. So now, I'm not talking about them as a group, but it's just like one here. Then I just got to remind them.
Yeah,
the job never ends.
But that's what makes it exciting, and maybe we'll dig into a little bit more of that on the next podcast. But Coach, thank you so much for your time today. Always good to catch up with you, and we want to thank everybody for watching today.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. Happy to be here, man.
You as well. Take care.